Okay. Hi, DorianHolguin.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll have to practice it a lot. Welcome to the Pilates Pulse, where we're going to be interviewing some people that want to share their experiences, not only about Pilates, but about life, about things that set us on fire and really inspire us, and things that other people can relate to. So first, I want to give a little bit of an introduction to Dorian, because I feel like I know him already through Chelsea, which most people who will be watching this interview know Chelsea quite well as well. She's one of those people that connects people together. Perfect example here. So
Yes.
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, always. And we are speaking with you, and you're coming from where? Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in San Diego, California.
Lucky.
It's beautiful weather right now.
Lucky, lucky, lucky. Although New Jersey has really good weather right now too. It's fall, it's like 60 degrees, very crisp. So I can't complain now. But if I interview you in like 2 months, I will be really angry with you at this point. So Dorian, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for a living, how you spend your time, anything you want to share. We'd love to hear.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I started in the beauty industry about 20 years ago. Growing up, my mom was a single mom, and she, to make extra cash, was did Mary Kay and Jafra. And because she was a single mom, she had nowhere to leave me, so I would normally come to the parties with her. And little did I know I was actually learning from all of these parties that I attended. I had a SPF and face moisturizer at like 12, and by the time I got into college and I had roommates, and I'd see my roommates washing their hair with shampoo and then in their faces and then their body, I was like, what are you doing? Anyways, so that really got me into the beauty industry. I became a personal trainer and an esthetician, so I really love beauty from the inside out. I was diagnosed with lupus when I was like 32, so that was 8 years ago, but I started having symptoms about 14 years ago. And yeah, it's been a journey.
So I definitely one of the things I want to dive a little bit into your experience with lupus in a moment, which I know might be a little difficult. But before that, I just wanted to read a quote that I saw on one of your pages that I just feel like is so aligned with how I practice Pilates and why I teach Pilates. It seems like we have a similar purpose. And I love it. I work with women and individuals to help redefine their beauty ambitions and rediscover their beauty blessings. Love, love. Beauty is aspirational, which is why I fall in love with everything that is beauty. Wow. So it shows that you're about from the inside out. And that's a huge reason why I practice and teach Pilates, is helping people discover really what they have inside to give, and what their either beauty is, their strength is, their love, anything that comes from inside. So when I read that, I was like, and it's funny because I didn't read it when I asked you to do the interview. I had read it after when I was doing research. And I'm like, I just knew this was aligned. But then again, we have Chelsea as a common thread. So that makes sense. Yes. So talk a little bit about your feeling about beauty from the inside out and what that means to you.
So before, it was really about whatever you ingest really kind of shows out on the outside. So, having a great diet, eating well, exercising is all going to show beautifully in your skin and in the way you hold yourself. But I think now it's become something really completely different, where it's not just what you're eating, but it's how you feel at a certain time of your life. So like, if you're really down on yourself and you start Pilates and you feel stronger and you're walking straighter, that to me is also beauty from the inside out. You're not necessarily getting immediate benefits physically, but mentally you're just in a really better place, and you kind of love yourself more for that.
It's exactly how I feel about that. And you see these little moments of, and when you work with people, either do you personal train right now for a career as well? Or is
not currently because of COVID.
Right.
But yeah, whenever I get the chance, I really love it.
Yeah. So seeing that in that aspect too, bringing the strength out of someone in those little moments that add up, really makes a difference in a person's life. And then when they have that fire inside, or that feeling, that good feeling, that beautiful feeling, that purposeful feeling, then they really can go and tackle their day, and then even more so the world, which right now is really tough to tackle sometimes. So I love
And
it.
sometimes people just need to know that they can accomplish something. They might want to lose 10 pounds, they want to get down 2 dress sizes, but just knowing that they can get to the gym every day, make that part of their routine, and they feel stronger,
Yes.
that's kind of everything to people.
Yes, I actually have this quote that we use on our website. Practice is progress and consistency is success. So sort of stripping it down to, like, if you practice something, like either working out, practice your skincare, practice your sleep, your self-care, that's progress right there. You don't even need any other benchmarks. And if you are consistent with it, success happens. So I just feel like that's such a strong way to say it. And I see that that's exactly how you live your life and carry on with all the things that you do for other people. So now I would like you to tell us a little bit about your battle with lupus and how you discovered that you had it, and that journey that was probably so difficult.
So this all happened about 14 years ago. I was at the peak of my physical um, self goals. I was 165 pounds, pretty much all muscle, about 9% body fat. And I just felt the best I'd ever felt in my life. It was a beautiful feeling, it really was. Just knowing that I could get there and reach that goal. But I had reached that goal not long after I started having a lot of pain in my right hand, then in my my left hand, then in my arm. Doctors really couldn't figure it out. They thought I had carpal tunnel at one point. They thought it was thoracic outlet syndrome at one point. But as soon as I started feeling just severe fatigue and the migraines started, debilitating migraines that would last 2, sometimes even 3 weeks, they ruined me. I was told by the doctors that I was just working out too hard, and they told me to stop working out. And to me, it was just the craziest thing you could ever say to me. It was my life. I lived at the gym. I ate perfectly. I was, meal prepping. I just put a lot into what I was doing to hit my goals. And to be told that I can't do that anymore was just really frustrating. But I listened to the doctors and I got worse. Years later, I was diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome. They said that that was causing a lot of the fatigue. Other doctors said that that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I went about 6 years before I was actually diagnosed with lupus, and that is normal for anybody that has lupus. There's no real test to test for it. It's kind of just checking things off of a list. So it's not this because this is happening. And I think that's the most frustrating part of having had lupus is for 6 years, you really don't know why you feel the way you do, and neither do the doctors. So after 30, maybe 60 different medications, I finally found a doctor, Dr. Alfiero in LA, and she diagnosed me with lupus. And it has been, even just knowing and being on a program to make myself better, it still just was a very, very slow process. During that process, I couldn't listen to the doctors anymore. I was so frail and I had lost so much weight, and walking around the block was winding me. So I decided that I just couldn't do it anymore. A friend of mine had introduced me to a studio that took my insurance, which was perfect because I was on disability at the time, so I didn't have a lot of money. And I saw the chiropractor. He cleared me to start a Pilates program, and it was the best choice I've ever made.
So what were some of the experiences when you first started Pilates, coming from this really challenging place, but also coming before that, way before, from like the best health in your life, and that roller coaster ride? When you say like the first month of Pilates, what were some of the things you remember that stuck out?
It was really hard. I was used to going to the gym and being strong and knowing exactly what I was doing, and having good form because my body, just my core was strong and I could do anything. And starting from scratch, really, even negative scratch. I mean, I'd never been so weak in my life. It was, I was very self-conscious, and I didn't know if I was really going to be able to work out with a Pilates instructor because I was just kind of embarrassed. I wasn't myself, and yeah, it was hard. So, but it was a one-on-one class, and my Pilates instructor was amazing. I mean, she was one of the most beautiful human beings I'd probably ever met, and she just made me feel super comfortable. I think it being a one-on-one class really helped, but this instructor was just, she
You can
knew a
name
way
drop.
to.
You can name
I
drop and give her props if you want.
Her name is Sarah, and I forgot what her last name is, but she's from LA and she's an amazing Pilates instructor.
Great.
And she started me off just with really simple exercises, building up my core. And once I had that strength, even within 2 weeks, I just felt better about myself, and I
Did it,
felt stronger. And it just put me in a better mental place. It
I was
really
going
did.
to
It really
say,
just
did
pulled
it,
me out of that gutter that I'd been in for so long.
so basically even in the first 2 weeks of doing it, you were able to shift your mindset and start to tackle some things that you wouldn't have been able to, which is really the first amazing step in any capacity, no matter where you're coming from, is that mental state that you get from this practice.
Right.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And then how long did you do it after that, and what kind of experiences did you have in terms of getting your body back to feeling a little bit more like normal you? I know that with lupus it's always a challenge and it's going to be always something you have to manage, but how did it help you get back there, or get back to your new expectations at least?
My new me. Yeah.
Yeah, your new me, the new normal, the new me, all that.
Yes. Um, it was a really long process to really get me even to be able to do smaller exercises, because one day I would go in and I'd feel like $1,000,000, and the next day I'd go in and I was flared up, inflamed everywhere, and I could barely grab onto anything. So she was just so patient and so caring and understanding, um, but so smart. She was able to, even when I felt bad, create exercises that were still very productive for my, workout journey, for my fitness journey. She made me feel strong, and she made me feel able even when I really wasn't.
That's great. It's an amazing practice. And when you have an instructor that's really knowledgeable and empathetic, which I feel that is a strong component to any wellness profession. It's not always the case, but I feel the importance of that. And training teachers on my end, that's actually, even though you can't really teach empathy, you can encourage it. And when someone's given permission to really focus on the journey of the person that's with them, or it really makes a difference in any kind of wellness practice or wellness profession. So I love that that was such a component for you, and it kept you going. Because that partnership between teacher or instructor and student is a really intimate partnership at many points, if the two individuals allow it to take that course. But that's when it's most powerful in my experience. So
And empathetic is the perfect word for it. She just found ways to celebrate little wins. And that's really what pushed me to do the next exercise and get stronger so that I could do it again. And yeah, just the celebration of small wins was just so perfect.
did it change how you live your life now, in terms of what your expectations for you, like when you had described when you were in your perfect shape before, prior to your diagnosis, how those benchmarks of being like a certain weight and a certain height and a certain, well, I know it was a while ago too, so age has a factor. I know that firsthand. Your expectations lower a little bit as your age goes up. Your expectations get more managed or manageable. But did now your expectations for your health, compare your expectations to how you feel you are doing with your health, and that could be in any capacity, physically, mentally, in regard to lupus?
I think before it was I was really focused on how I looked. And after I had lupus and started Pilates, I was more focused on how I felt. I felt stronger. That made me happy. It was no longer looking in the mirror and seeing my six pack come in, or being at the gym and lifting heavier than I did 2 weeks ago. Now it was just really how the exercise and how Pilates just was making me feel at the time. And that took a really long time to kind of switch mentally. It just didn't happen overnight. And I did Pilates for 2 years with her, and my expectations changed every week and every month and then every 6 months. Um, I set new goals for myself. And I think everybody right now, especially with everything that's going on, knows what a new normal is.
Yeah.
We no longer are living the way we did, and we now have a different way of and different expectations of how we live our lives. And I think that's what was one of the hardest things for me to kind of switch in my brain, is to know that this is my new normal and things might not get better. And this might be what I live with for the rest of my life. And I need to learn to be happy in the moment and really live in the moment.
Yes, I actually feel that that's one, if we can say any silver lining to the pandemic, because I try to always look for silver linings. I know it's more difficult some days than others, but in terms of the pandemic and having to slow down and sort of look inward and reassess. And I tell my kids this all the time, well, don't worry about next week. Let's actually worry about today, like right now. Not worry about it, but be in it and figure out what you're needing to do now and not next week, because we don't know what it's going to look like next week. And that's okay. That's actually, once you really embrace that, it's quite freeing, I think. Don't you think?
It's freeing, and it's a way to release that stress of expecting it to go back to the way it was, and stress is the worst part of healing, really, that you can encounter, because it just messes up your cortisol levels. It will depress you. It causes anxiety. And that is just a domino effect on how your body starts to respond to, your everyday life, your actions, and how
Yeah.
you are living.
And it causes middle-age acne, just to point
Oh,
out. Offline, I might there he goes. Offline, I might have a good conversation. Yeah, Chelsea's like, she knew she'd hear from him at one point, little bit. To be a dog, I said, if we do come back again in another life after we're gone in this one, I want to be my dog. He has my dog. I mean, and probably your dog too, and Chelsea's dog. He has the best life in the world. No stress whatsoever. But yeah, I'll have a conversation offline about middle-aged stress-induced acne, because I could use some tips and tricks for that, running a business and whatnot. That actually is a good segue into something I wanted to talk about a little bit with you. You've already touched on in terms of self-care. So I don't know if you know, but Joseph Pilates, as we read about him, he had a pretty holistic approach aside from his method of exercises. He encouraged dry brushing. He called Pilates. I'll tell you a funny story about a book I'm reading right now in detail about that, but he called Pilates, when done in that controlled, learned fashion over and over again, an internal cleanse or an internal shower, because not only does it strengthen you and make you breathe properly, but it actually wrings out in and out the lungs and the digestive organs, to the point of detoxifying the body. And he believed in that. He believed in going outside in nature and getting fresh air. He believed in observing the way that animals moved, because animals move without being ruined by civilized society, as he called, back in that way back when time, bodies were getting ruined by their civilized society. Can you imagine what he's looking down right now, looking at us and what we're doing and saying? But so all of that is really, it's about the skin, it's about what you eat, it's about that holistic approach. So I think it's just really interesting that now Pilates is not really viewed by the general mainstream public as being a holistic practice. It's kind of viewed more as just like an exercise regimen, which of course those of us like me who are from the the real deal line of people who've passed it down still try to practice all those things. But what do you think about that? How do you feel like in terms of being a skincare expert? Do you connect the two in your mind? Do you talk about that to your clients?
Definitely. I think that exercise and Pilates is just a great way to release a lot of stress. And you were talking about how that repetition is really helps in Pilates. And I think the reason it helps so much is because once you've developed technique, you can get lost in the exercise and meditate.
Yep.
And hold a position or a plank or whatever exercise you're doing and get lost in it and feel and yourself in that moment and kind of heal. I think you also touched on something by saying, just sweating out and detoxifying. When I was first starting in Pilates and I had been sick for so long, I was on like 17 medications, taking 30 plus pills a day, and I didn't realize that I needed to detox all of that medication out of my system. And when I first started exercising again, I stunk so bad. I mean, I know that's probably not like
no, I like TMI
say,
because it's truth. Yeah, it's truth.
It's truth, and I stunk so bad, and it was the medication that was just exiting my body through my pores, and that those toxins coming out and then being washed away made my skin look better. It made me feel better. I didn't live in a fog anymore. And I think detoxifying through exercise and sweat and meditation is just very important.
Yeah, a moving meditation. I loved how you touched on that because I consider Pilates a major moving meditation. And one of the things lately that I've been struggling with because of having a business, the pandemic, having two teenagers, just all of the outward, it gets to be, tricky to do that. But I need to just, like I preach to other people, be consistent, practice. And it does become, once you get started, it turns into a moving meditation if you really can be present and do all the things that you're supposed to do when you're doing your Pilates and practicing your Pilates and your technique. So it's just all connected. So the one quick story I was going to say about just Pilates, the book I'm reading by John Steele is The Caged Lion, it's called. And if you would be really interested in it. And I've seen him interviewed. It's a student of Joseph Pilates that's still alive. This chapter I'm on, he's writing about after your session with him, you had to go and take a shower and dry brush. And if you did not dry brush and use the natural soap that he had, he was done with you. Like it had to be his whole system. Like you have to do this. And he actually would peek in, which nowadays wouldn't be well received, obviously, to make sure you were dry brushing. Guy or girl, didn't matter, he said. Yeah. So that's a whole other topic that we're not going to cover here. But to me, yeah.
Dry brushing is such a great practice. It really is. I love to do it when you first wake up in the morning. You don't realize how toxic your lymphatic system is until you start to dry brush. I mean, your digestive system really changes within that first 2 weeks, and it's very strange. But then you start to really see the effects of dry brushing every day. Your skin feels better. You have so much more energy, and you don't get sick as often, is what I really remember.
This is so useful to people watching this. Can you first explain the proper technique of dry brushing and then explain how it helps you detoxify, not get sick, and not so scientifically, but just however, as an esthetician, you have the background. How does it work and how do you do it?
So unlike your oh my gosh, why can't I think of the word?
That's okay.
Your circulatory system, your lymphatic system doesn't have a way to pump itself throughout the body. So it kind of just sits in the areas that it's in, especially now that people are just so much more stagnant. They don't move from their desk and they don't really walk around as much. The only way to pump your lymphatic system is by walking. It pushes down on the bottoms of the feet and it just kind of pumps that. But even just with regular walking, it's not enough. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a way to circulate. And the only way that it will help to detoxify is once it gets processed through the heart and then back down into the body. So you need a way to help push that lymphatic fluid up towards the heart so that it can cleanse the lymphatic fluid. And you want to always start at the bottom and work your way towards your heart. So you're brushing, and you have to do dry brushing, because if it's wet, it doesn't glide along the skin the same. So starting at the feet with strokes up towards your heart is really going to help pull that lymphatic fluid up towards the heart so that you can purify it. And even with the hands, you want to go from the tips of the fingers up towards the heart and back. Everybody has a different method of dry brushing. Everybody has a different method of dry brushing, but massage therapists really have to learn the proper method of giving a massage, because if not, you can push lymphatic fluid down to the feet and cause major problems. So, always moving that lymphatic fluid towards the heart is really what you want to do.
Awesome. I actually did not know that. I dry brush and I do the circular motion, but I do not always start at the bottom. I don't know if I've ever had a rhyme or reason. I'm so happy that I learned that today. So thank you. I'm sure a lot of other people are learning, that never even did it, hopefully, are being inspired. So, well, that's great. That's another great way for us to take care of ourselves. So, let's actually talk about, I want you to tell us a little bit about your business. I want you to be able to advertise that a little bit in your most authentic way, of course. So tell us about your business. First of all, your website is one of the most beautiful website I've ever seen in my life. And I'm jealous now.
Yes.
And is it your husband, is he a developer?
He's a graphic designer, and he's just wicked talented.
Is he expensive? Because I want a website. After I saw your website, I want a refresh.
Well, I'll get you in touch with him.
Okay. So tell us about your business and what you spend most of your time doing for work now and your clients.
Like I said, I started in beauty about 20 years ago, and I got into retail beauty when I was in my early 20s. And retail is great. It's a beautiful way to meet people and connect with them, follow up with them. They kind of become part of your family. And I really love, some people just think retail is retail, but for me, it was more a way to connect with people. As I've gotten older and lupus has taken a different toll on my body, I can no longer stand on my feet for 8-10 hours a day. So I wanted to segue into a way that I could really focus on my artistry and helping teach people proper ways of just being healthy. So I created Beauty by Dorian, which has a blog on there. And I love to blog about all different types of things, whether it be beauty, skincare, makeup, but also more of like a holistic approach, and talk about exercise and how that works from the inside out to make your skin look better. I also have on there a way to get in touch with me if you ever want to book me for a service, and my portfolio is on there. This all happened right before COVID hit. So right when it was getting started, I couldn't see people anymore to do makeup and be an esthetician. So I started focusing on creating content more. And that's when my Instagram kind of was built, and I started working on different looks. Makeup is really part of my life. I don't think I could live without it. So just having the opportunity to still be artistic is wonderful.
Your Instagram is beautiful too, by the way.
Thank you.
Not just because Chelsea is on it.
My star model.
Oh, she is. She's like
muse.
amazing. I know, but it's beautiful. And we're going to, at the end of this, or when we email this interview, we're going to have your socials and your website on it. So
thank you.
Thank you. This is such a pleasure. So I just want to kind of finish up by asking you if there's anything you want to ask me about Pilates or anything.
How did you get into Pilates?
So I actually was a dance major, double major with dance and communications. And I went after college to work for Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta. And because dance has always been my passion, I still took classes at the Atlanta Ballet, just in my free time. I never actually danced professionally, only in the companies in college. I discovered Pilates, so I started taking it. And when I moved back up here, lived in Jersey City, worked in Northern New Jersey, New York City in the TV industry, I got more attached to Pilates as a stress release. I was actually always also an exerciser, like, always went to the gym. And when I just felt the benefits of Pilates, even more so than the benefits of, just going and working out with either Nautilus equipment or weights, or I just felt like it really made my body move very freely. It felt to me a little bit like dance, and definitely a moving meditation to combat stress. I just fell in love with it. Yeah, it's so functional, and it's so, it really gets you to get to know yourself. So when I got married and decided that we wanted children, I was kind of like weighing my options on what I wanted to do, and if I really wanted to like be in editing bays late at night or travel for commercials that I didn't have a passion for what I was doing. I was, filming commercials for like Marvin windows and doors, or, just like things like that weren't like, just inspirational. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to get certified. So I actually went and got my personal trainer certification first, because the Pilates certification, at least the one that I was going for, I did a shorter personal training certification. Pilates certification was about a year long, similar to the one that I teach now that Chelsea's in. And I worked as a personal trainer in a couple gyms in Hoboken and in New York City, and started to put Pilates into play as I would learn it, and just never went back. And, I worked in studios all over Manhattan and Northern New Jersey, probably for, I guess it was about 17 years before I opened my own studio, and decided it was finally time to have my own space. And my kids are a little bit bigger, so it was the right time. And now I'm really trying to just create a community, a huge community of people who, with health and wellness, that just connect people and make it inspirational and accessible to everyone, because Pilates is for everybody. Pilates is for everyone. It can, that's the most beautiful thing about it, I think. We work in my studio, we have a Pilates strength and recovery program for patients with cancer. So doctors at the Summit Medical Group by me have cleared that for patients that are in treatment for cancer, which is one of the first in its kind. Usually it's after treatment. So I teach people that have, they're getting chemotherapy, they have surgery, they're getting radiation, they're having oral chemotherapy. It can be all kinds. And it's not just breast cancer. We have a high breast cancer population, but we also have lung cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There's been just, I've learned so much, and these people bless me with their spirit every week. And so the program is really taken off. So I'm really proud of that. I've worked with, you're going to love this, I helped develop a program, this was years ago, called Real Beauty. One of my photographer friends created the Real Beauty component, and I put the Pilates component in it, and it was for enhancing self-esteem in teenage girls at the time. That's what we knew. We were working on a program actually for boys too, but it had to be tailored a little bit differently with age groups, and we started getting into that. But for the girls, it was amazing, because you could see when they started to move, they started to release those inhibitions and those kind of insecurities, and they would chat with each other, and we would go over important things about social media. So it was a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a healthy meal, and then or Pilates was first. So that program was, I want to bring that program back actually. So that was, kind of putting Pilates into all the areas that I find super important and people who need it the most. So that's how I got into it, and I'm not looking back, because it just helps everybody that I come across, and I've met some amazing people with it.
I think our journeys are similar in the sense that we're following our passion, really loving what we're doing, and even though it's work, we get to connect with people, see their journey, and take their journey with them, and then see them flourish in Pilates. Or I have this one story that I tell all the time of a lady coming into my store, and she looked like she was having a really bad day, and she was. And I sat her down without even thinking and just started doing her makeup. She didn't ask me of anything. I just was talking to her, and I could tell she was having a bad day. And she told me about her day, and I was continuing to do her makeup. And at the end of her story, I showed her the mirror, and she looked at it and looked at me and then started crying and said, I've never felt so beautiful. And after having had a day like this, it really just made my week. A few days later, she comes in and she says, my husband, in the 40 years that we've been married, has never given me a compliment about how I look really in a very long time. And the day I went home after seeing you, he complimented me and said how beautiful I was. And it's moments like that that really tell me that I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Yeah, it's amazing when you feel that from somebody else, isn't it? Or when someone cries with you. I've had people cry as soon as they get on the reformer and they just start going out and in. You can tell the pent up whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they start crying because it's a release. And if someone trusts you with that part of them and you have that trust, they let down the wall, and that's really what it's about, right? Building that trust. And that's why I say wellness in general is a very intimate profession if it's done well, well. So what advice would you give someone who is suffering from either lupus or any other either disease or injury in terms of your experience and Pilates, but else, your profession as well?
I think the biggest tip I can give anybody is be flexible. You don't know how you're going to feel tomorrow. You don't know how you're going to feel in 3 hours sometimes. There's a really beautiful story blog on the internet. I forget who writes it, but she talks about having energy throughout the day and how much she can actually do. And she speaks about it in terms of spoons. She wakes up in the morning and she sees how many spoons she has. Some days she has 10 spoons. Some days she only has 20 spoons. And, getting up and getting ready in the morning can be 1 spoon. Going to work can be 3 spoons. Sometimes you only have 10, and by the time you get home, you're out of spoons you're borrowing from the next day, and that next day is going to be even harder. So it's really just trying to be flexible, understanding and understanding how your body reacts to certain situations, and knowing what it is you need to do to make yourself feel better, to eat properly, to eat on time, to take your medications. Focus on you, and just don't get depressed and frustrated when you have a bad day.
Know that
they're going to be there, and you're going to have a lot of them. But, focus on living in the moment and try to develop a way to learn how to listen to your body.
I think that's the key right there too. Find a way to be in tune and listen to your body, and make it be okay when it's not what you expect it to be. There will always be more moments in time that you can address that, or it will be better. So do what you need at the moment you need it. And self-care, there it is again.
Self-care.
That's a great way to close, I think, unless you have anything else. This was such a pleasure.
No, thank you for having me. This has been amazing.
What a great way to kick off a Friday night. I know it's not night by you yet, but it's 5:48 here, so that's like I'm fired up and inspired for our dinner that we're going to with friends. So thank you for just shining your light and sharing your light. And I told Chelsea, even though I hadn't met you yet, I can see the kindness and the fire in your eyes in your photos, and that just means that you are your most authentic self with what you're doing, and you're aligned with your passion, and you're doing it. You're showing up and you're doing it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I just think if we can get other people to do that, the world will be, a much happier and healthier place. So hopefully we can keep on keeping on. So yes. I'm going to stop record, but if you'll just hang on for a second so I can say hello and goodbye to my friend and the puppies.
Well, it's 5:49 there, but it's